I reported my own Porsche stolen while my mother-in-law was driving it. And when the cops pulled her over on Highway 101, surrounded by 3 cruisers with their lights blazing, I watched the whole thing through a live feed on my phone. Patricia was screaming that it was her son's car, that I was crazy, that this was all some misunderstanding. But here's what made my hands shake as I watched. It wasn't just about the car. When the officer opened the glove compartment, he found mortgage documents with my forged signature on them. $300,000 they were trying to steal from my house. The house I owned before I even met Liam. And as Patricia got zip-tied on the side of the highway, all I could think was, finally. But I didn't feel victorious. I felt sick, because for 5 years, I'd let this woman walk all over me. She'd stolen my grandmother's Cartier bracelet, worn my clothes, used the key Liam gave her to walk into our house whenever she wanted. And every single time I complained, Liam would give me that look, the one that said I was being dramatic, that I was the problem. She raised me alone. Sophia, cut her some slack. Slack. As if my boundaries were just suggestions. As if watching her parade around the country club in my jewelry was the price I paid for loving her son. When I got home that night, Liam was waiting in the driveway. Not angry. Worse. Calm. Too calm. We need to talk. Inside. Now. He locked the front door behind us, and that's when my stomach dropped. Because Liam pulled out his phone and showed me something I'd never seen before. A bank account with my name on it. A joint account I never opened. "This is where I've been laundering money for 2 years," he said, his voice flat. "Every transaction has your social security number on it. Your name, your identity." He leaned forward, and I swear I didn't recognize the man in front of me. "So here's what's going to happen, Sophia. You're going to drop the charges against my mother. You're going to tell the police it was all a mistake. Because if you don't, I go to the IRS and tell them you've been helping me hide income this whole time." I couldn't breathe. You'd send me to prison." He smiled. Actually smiled. "They won't believe you didn't know. Not with your name all over everything. So yeah. Drop the charges. Sign the mortgage papers, or we both go down. Except I'll make sure you go down first." And sitting there in my own kitchen, in the house I bought with money I earned, I realized something that made my blood turn to ice. I wasn't just trapped. I was buried alive. And the only way out was going to require me to do something they'd never see coming. The next morning, I called the police station and told them it was all a misunderstanding. My voice was steady, apologetic even. "I'm so sorry for the confusion, officer. My mother-in-law had permission to use the vehicle. It was a communication error between my husband and me." The words tasted like ash in my mouth, but I said them anyway. Because Liam was standing right next to me, arms crossed, watching my every move like a warden. The officer sounded confused. Apparently Patricia had been hysterical at the station, screaming about pressing charges against me for false reporting. But I smoothed it over. "Family drama," I said with a forced laugh. "You know how it is." He let it go. The report was withdrawn. And just like that, Patricia was free. She came back to our house that afternoon like a hurricane. Not grateful, furious. She slammed the front door so hard a picture frame fell off the wall, and she pointed one bony finger right at my face. "You humiliated me. Do you know what it's like to be handcuffed on the side of the highway like some common criminal? My friends saw. Everyone at the club is talking." Liam put a hand on her shoulder, trying to calm her down, but she shook him off. "No, she needs to apologize. Right now. On her knees if she has to." I looked at Liam, waiting for him to defend me, to tell his mother she'd stolen my car and that I had every right to report it. But he just stared back at me with those cold, empty eyes. The same eyes that used to look at me with love, or what I thought was love. Now I could see it for what it really was. Calculation. Sophia. Apologize. Not a question, a command. And in that moment, standing in my own living room with these two parasites demanding I bow down, something clicked in my brain. I thought about that bank account, about the IRS threat hanging over my head like a guillotine, about how trapped I really was. So I did what I had to do. I apologized. I said I was sorry, that I overreacted, that I was stressed and didn't know what I was thinking. Patricia's eyes lit up with satisfaction, and she actually smiled, this twisted, triumphant smile that made my skin crawl. "That's better," she said, smoothing down her blouse like she'd just won a war. "Now, about my car." "Your car." I almost laughed, but I caught myself. "The Porsche. Since you clearly can't handle the responsibility of ownership, I'll be keeping it. Consider it compensation for the trauma you caused me." Liam nodded like this was perfectly reasonable. "We also need to talk about the mortgage papers, Sophia, the real ones. We need that $300,000, and we need it fast. Mom's got some debts that need clearing. And honestly, after what you pulled yesterday, you owe us." He sat down at my kitchen table, my table, in my house, and pulled out a folder. Inside were fresh documents, crisp and official looking. "We're going to the bank in 3 days. You're going to sign these, you're going to smile, and you're going to hand over the equity on this house so we can clean up this mess. Because if you don't..." "I know," I said quietly. "The IRS, the joint account, I get it." And I did get it. I got that I was sleeping next to my enemy every single night. That the woman currently rifling through my refrigerator like she owned the place had been slowly poisoning my life for 5 years. That I'd been so desperate to make this marriage work, so desperate to be accepted by Liam's family, that I'd let them turn me into a victim. But here's what they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know. While Patricia loaded up a plate with my food, and Liam outlined the bank meeting like he was planning a heist, I was already 3 steps ahead. That account with my name on it? I was going to find it. I was going to prove I never touched it. And in 3 days, when we walked into that bank, they were going to learn exactly what happens when you back a woman into a corner and assume she'll just roll over and die. Patricia moved into my guest room that night. Not asked, announced. "I can't possibly drive all the way back to my place after the day I've had," she said, already hauling her Louis Vuitton luggage up my stairs. The Louis Vuitton I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago, by the way. Liam didn't even look at me when I opened my mouth to protest. He just turned up the volume on the TV like I wasn't even there. And that's when I realized they weren't just stealing my money anymore. They were taking over my entire life, room by room, boundary by boundary, until there'd be nothing left of me but a signature on their documents. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of my Porsche engine roaring to life in the driveway. I ran to the window just in time to see Patricia backing out, wearing my sunglasses, the Chanel ones, with the seat adjusted to her height. She caught me watching from the bedroom window and had the audacity to wave, not a friendly wave. A queen's wave, the kind that says, "I own this now." When I confronted Liam about it over breakfast, he just shrugged. "She needs to run some errands. What's the big deal? It's just a car, Sophia. Just a car. The car I'd worked 70-hour weeks to afford. The first major purchase I'd made for myself after building my consulting business from nothing. But sure, just a car." "We need to talk about the bank appointment," Liam said, sliding a mug of coffee toward me like this was a normal Monday morning conversation. "Wednesday at 2 p.m. I've already confirmed with Mr. Henderson. He's the manager. Been there for years. Very discreet." The way he said discreet made my stomach turn. Like this was some kind of shady deal instead of grand larceny. "You're going to sign the papers. We're getting the $300,000 wired to Mom's account by end of business. And then," he leaned forward, his voice dropping, "then we close that other account, the joint one. We withdraw everything, split it, and it disappears. No trail, no IRS, no problem. And if I refuse? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Liam's smile didn't reach his eyes. You won't refuse, because you're smart, Sophia. You've always been smart. That's why I married you. He said it like a compliment, but it landed like a threat. You know exactly what happens if you try to fight this. So, Wednesday, you're going to put on a nice dress, you're going to walk into that bank with us, and you're going to do the right thing. For all of us. He stood up, kissed the top of my head like we were a normal couple, and walked out, leaving me sitting there with cold coffee and the suffocating realization that I had less than 48 hours to figure out how to escape a trap designed specifically for me. That afternoon, Patricia came back with shopping bags. Lots of them. Nordstrom, Saks, Bloomingdale's. She'd apparently taken my car on a little retail therapy session. Don't worry, she said, catching my expression. I used Liam's card. Liam's card. The one connected to our joint checking account. The one I funded every month with my business income. She dropped the bags on my couch and pulled out a cashmere sweater, the exact one I'd been eyeing online last week, but decided was too expensive. Early Christmas gift to myself, she said with a wink. You don't mind, do you? After all, in a few days, we'll practically be family partners. What's mine is yours and all that. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab those bags and throw them out the window, but instead, I smiled. It's beautiful, Patricia. It'll look great on you. Because that's what you do when you're planning something big. You play along. You make them comfortable. You let them think they've won so completely that they stop watching their backs. And as Patricia strutted upstairs to try on her new wardrobe in my guest room, her room now, I pulled out my phone and started Googling, and how to prove bank account fraud, IP address tracking on financial accounts, digital forensics for identity theft. I had 2 days to become an expert, 2 days to find evidence that would hold up in court, 2 days to turn this trap around on the people who built it. The clock was ticking, and I was running out of time. That night, Liam came to bed around midnight, reeking of whiskey. He did this sometimes, drank himself stupid when he was stressed, like his conscience was trying to claw its way out and he had to drown it. He collapsed onto his side of the mattress without even taking off his jeans, muttering something about his mother being high maintenance. I lay there in the dark, listening to his breathing slow and deepen, watching the rise and fall of his chest. And then I waited. 10 minutes. 20. When I was absolutely certain he was out cold, I reached across the bed and picked up his phone from the nightstand. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. His phone. The thing he guarded like it contained nuclear codes. But drunk Liam was careless Liam, and he'd passed out face up. I held the screen to his face, praying the angle would work for Face ID. The lock clicked open. Oh God, I was in. My heart was hammering so loud I was sure he'd wake up, but he just rolled over, snoring. I slipped out of bed and locked myself in the bathroom, sitting on the cold tile floor with my back against the door. I opened his banking apps one by one. Checking account, normal, savings, nearly empty, which wasn't surprising. But then I found it, buried in a folder labeled Tax Documents, an app I didn't recognize. Offshore Financial Services. I clicked it. It didn't ask for a password. He'd saved the login. And there it was. The joint account. Sophia and Liam Morrison. Except I'd never heard of this bank. Never signed anything. Never authorized a single transaction. I started scrolling through the transaction history, screenshotting everything, but it was the access logs that made me stop breathing. Every single login had a timestamp, an IP address, and a device ID. I pulled up a notes app and started documenting. January 15th of 2023. Login from IP 192.168.1.47. Liam's phone. February 3rd. Logan from IP 7582111123. I Googled it, and it traced back to Patricia's address, March through December. Dozens of logins, all from either Liam's devices or his mother's home network. I scrolled back 2 full years. Not a single login from my phone, not one from my laptop, not one from any device I owned or any location I'd ever been. They'd built this entire account without me. Every deposit, every withdrawal, every transaction, it was all them, and the money. I dug deeper into the statements, and that's when I saw it. The deposits matched perfectly with the amounts that had been mysteriously disappearing from our joint checking account over the past 2 years. Small amounts at first, $500 here, $800 there. Then bigger, $3,000, $5,000. Money I'd earned, money I'd deposited, money I thought was going toward our future. Liam hadn't been laundering some criminal enterprise's dirty money. He'd been stealing from me, moving my own money into a fake account with my name on it, and calling it laundering to scare me into submission. I sat on that bathroom floor until 3 a.m., photographing every screen, every transaction, every IP log. My phone's storage was filling up with evidence, and for the first time since this nightmare started, I felt something other than fear. I felt rage. Pure, crystallized rage. Because this wasn't just financial fraud. This was systematic theft disguised as leverage. They'd been robbing me blind for years. And when I finally fought back, they had the audacity to threaten me with my own stolen money. Well, Wednesday was in 2 days. And Liam wanted me to walk into that bank and sign over my house. Oh, I'd walk in. I'd smile. I'd play the obedient wife. But what he didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that I'd already called Mr. Henderson that evening and asked for a very special favor. One that was going to turn their perfect plan into a nightmare they'd never wake up from. The next day, I did something that nearly killed me. I played nice. I made Patricia breakfast, scrambled eggs, toast, fresh coffee, the works. She looked at me like I'd grown a second head. "And what's this?" she asked suspiciously, eyeing the plate like it might be poisoned. "Just thought I'd be a better daughter-in-law," I said sweetly. "After all, we're going to be business partners soon, right? The $300,000 from the house. It's going to help you, isn't it? With your debts." Her eyes narrowed, but I could see the vanity creeping in. Patricia's fatal flaw wasn't greed. It was her ego. She couldn't resist talking about herself. "I'm my debts," she repeated, stabbing a fork into her eggs. "You say that like I'm some kind of criminal. I have expenses, Sophia. Do you know what it costs to maintain a certain lifestyle? The club membership alone is $15,000 a year." I nodded sympathetically, pouring her more coffee. "Of course. You deserve nice things. You raised Liam all by yourself." That did it. Her shoulders relaxed. She took a sip of coffee and leaned back like she was settling in for a therapy session. "Damn right I did. His father left us with nothing. Nothing. I worked 2 jobs to put that boy through school, to give him opportunities. And what does he do? Marries a woman who calls the cops on me." I bit my tongue so hard I tasted blood. "I'm sorry about that. I really am. I was just scared, you know, about the mortgage stuff." I didn't understand what was happening. Patricia waved her hand dismissively. "Well, now you understand. That house should have been in Liam's name from the beginning. You bought it before you married him. So what? Marriage is a partnership. What's yours is his, and what's his is mine. I mean, ours. The family's." There it was. That slip. What's his is mine. I pulled my phone from my pocket, pretending to check a message, but really I was hitting record on my voice memo app. I set it face down on the counter, microphone aimed right at her. "So the mortgage thing, the refinancing, that was your idea?" I asked casually, cracking another egg into the pan. Patricia laughed, actually laughed. "Of course it was my idea. Liam's too soft. He would have just asked you and you would have said no," I told him. "Son, sometimes you have to take what's yours. She's your wife. That house is half yours legally anyway. And the signature thing." She leaned forward conspiratorially. "I forged it myself. 20 years working in real estate. Honey, I can copy anyone's signature perfectly." Liam was scared at first, but I told him it was fine. "What are you going to do? Report your own husband?" My hand froze on the spatula. She'd just confessed, on tape, to mortgage fraud, to forgery, to conspiracy. But I kept my face neutral, almost bored. "I guess you're right. And the money, the $300,000, what are you going to do with it?" Patricia's eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas morning. "First, I'm paying off my gambling debts. Don't look at me like that. It's not gambling, it's poker. I'm actually very good at it. I just hit a bad streak. $120,000 I'm down, but that's temporary. Then I'm buying that condo in Palm Springs I've had my eye on. Liam and I are going to flip it, make a profit. You'll get your cut, obviously." "Obviously," I echoed, plating her eggs. My phone was still recording. Every word, every confession, every piece of evidence I needed. And Liam, he's okay with all of this. The forgery, the account in my name, everything. Patricia set down her fork and looked at me with something almost like pity. "Sophia, sweetie, Liam does what I tell him to do. He always has. I raised him to take care of me. It's called being a good son. And if that means bending a few rules, so be it. That boy owes me everything. His education, his opportunities, his entire life. So yes, he's okay with it. Because I made him okay with it." I felt sick. Not because of what she was saying. I'd suspected as much. But because she was saying it so casually. Like ruining my life was just another Tuesday. Like I was an obstacle to be removed, not a person. I picked up my phone, stopped the recording, and slipped it back into my pocket. "Well," I said, forcing a smile. "I'm glad we had this talk. It makes Wednesday feel less scary." Patricia reached over and patted my hand. Her palm was cold. "You're learning, sweetheart. Sometimes in life, you have to know when you're beaten. Tomorrow at the bank, you sign those papers, and we all move on. Easy. Easy." "Sure." Except I just recorded her confession to multiple felonies. And tomorrow at the bank, Mr. Henderson wouldn't be alone. He'd have 2 federal agents waiting in the conference room next door. Because when I'd called him yesterday, I hadn't just asked for a favor. I'd filed a formal fraud report with documentation, IP logs. And now, thanks to Patricia's big mouth, a recorded confession. They thought Wednesday was going to be their payday. But it was actually going to be their reckoning. Wednesday morning arrived like a storm I'd been watching gather on the horizon for days. I put on a navy blue dress, conservative, professional, the kind of outfit that said, "responsible homeowner making a sound financial decision." Patricia was already downstairs, dressed like she was going to a charity gala instead of a bank meeting. Diamonds at her ears, my Chanel sunglasses perched on her head, my Porsche keys dangling from her fingers. "I'm driving," she announced, not asked. Announced. Liam didn't even look up from his coffee. "Fine with me. Sophia gets carsick in the back anyway." I didn't get carsick. He just wanted me in the back seat, powerless, controlled, a passenger in my own life. The drive to the bank was a nightmare. Patricia drove my Porsche like she was trying to prove something, weaving through traffic, tailgating, laying on the horn every time someone didn't move fast enough for her liking. We nearly sideswiped a Honda at a red light. "Mom, careful," Liam said weakly from the passenger seat. She laughed. "Relax. I know how to handle a sports car. I used to drive your father's Corvette back in the day." I sat in the back, gripping the door handle, watching her treat my $85,000 vehicle like a bumper car. Every reckless turn, every sudden brake, it was like she was trying to erase me completely, even from my own car. When we pulled into the bank parking lot, Patricia parked diagonally across 2 spaces. "Don't want anyone dinging it," she said, admiring the Porsche like it was hers, like she'd earned it. Liam grabbed the folder with the mortgage documents, and we walked toward the entrance. I could feel my phone buzzing in my purse, a text from Mr. Henderson. "Everything is ready." 3 words that made my heart race and my palms sweat. Because ready meant the federal agents were already inside. Ready meant the trap was set. And ready meant that in about 15 minutes, everything was going to explode. We walked through the lobby, all marble floors and hushed voices, and Mr. Henderson appeared almost immediately, his smile professional and warm. "Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, Mrs. Patricia Morrison, right this way, please." He led us to the VIP conference room, the one with the glass walls and the huge mahogany table, the one where high-net-worth clients handled their serious transactions. Patricia was practically glowing. She ran her hand along the leather chairs like she belonged there, like this was her world now. "Me fancy," she whispered to Liam. "I could get used to this." Mr. Henderson gestured for us to sit. Patricia took the head of the table, naturally. Liam sat to her right, and I sat across from them, my hands folded in my lap like a good little wife. Mr. Henderson placed the mortgage documents in front of me, thick, official, covered in legal language and signature lines. "Mrs. Morrison," he said formally, "this is a home equity line of credit for $300,000 against the property located at 847 Maple Drive. Are you prepared to proceed?" I picked up the pen he offered. Patricia leaned forward, her eyes locked on my hand. Liam's jaw was tight, but he was smiling, that fake, we're a normal family smile he'd perfected over the years. "Actually," I said quietly, setting the pen down, "before I sign, I have a question." Patricia's smile faltered. What kind of question?" Mr. Henderson looked at me, his expression neutral but his eyes knowing. "Mrs. Morrison has some concerns about the account verification process. Specifically, she'd like to verify the source of funds for the collateral guarantee account your son opened." Liam went pale. We don't need to." "I think we do," I said, my voice steady now. Strong. "See, there's a joint account with my name on it that I never authorized. And I'd like Mr. Henderson to verify who actually opened it, who accessed it, who moved money in and out of it." The room went silent. Patricia's face shifted from confusion to rage in about 3 seconds. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "What the hell are you doing?" But before I could answer, Mr. Henderson stood and opened the side door to the conference room, and 2 men in dark suits walked in, badges already out. "FBI," the taller one said. "We'd like to ask you both some questions about fraudulent account activity and identity theft." And in that moment, in that perfect, beautiful moment, I watched Patricia's face crumble. I watched Liam's hand start shaking, and I felt something I hadn't felt in 5 years. Freedom. Liam shot to his feet so fast his chair scraped against the floor. Wait, there's been a mistake. We're here for a mortgage refinancing, not—" "Sit down, Mr. Morrison," the shorter agent said. His voice wasn't loud, but it had that quality that made you obey instantly. Liam sat. Patricia, on the other hand, went on the offensive, immediately. "This is absurd. We haven't done anything wrong. Our daughter-in-law here is clearly having some kind of mental breakdown. She reported me for stealing a car that wasn't even stolen. And now she's—" "Mrs. Patricia Morrison," the taller agent interrupted, pulling out a tablet. "Is this your signature on these mortgage refinancing documents?" Patricia's mouth opened and closed. Sophia signed those." The agent turned the tablet toward her. "According to handwriting analysis, this signature matches samples from your real estate license application, not Mrs. Sophia Morrison's legal documents." Would you like to revise your statement?" The color drained from Patricia's face. She looked at Liam, then at me, then back at the agents. "I want a lawyer." "That's your right," the agent said calmly. "But first, let's talk about the offshore account." That's when Liam played his final card. He stood up again, pointing at me with a shaking finger. "She's involved. The account is in her name too. She knew everything. She helped me set it up." His voice was getting louder, more desperate. "Check the records. Her name is all over that account. Her social security number. She's been laundering money with me for 2 years." For a second, the agents looked at me, and I felt my heart drop. Because what if they believed him? What if all my evidence wasn't enough? "Actually," Mr. Henderson said, pulling a remote from his pocket, "I think we should review something." He pressed a button, and a screen lowered from the ceiling. There, in crystal clear detail, were the access logs I'd photographed. These are the digital access records for the account in question, provided to us by Mrs. Sophia Morrison yesterday, along with her formal fraud report. He highlighted entries in yellow. Every single login over the past 2 years originated from either Mr. Liam Morrison's mobile device or from this residential address in Riverside, which property records show belongs to Mrs. Patricia Morrison. He clicked to the next slide. And furthermore, every withdrawal and transfer came from these same 2 sources. Not once, not a single time in 24 months, did any access come from Mrs. Sophia Morrison's devices, her workplace, or any location she's documented as being present. Your wife isn't a co-conspirator, Mr. Morrison. She's a victim of identity theft. Liam's face went from red to white to a sickly gray. You don't understand." "Must have what?" I interrupted quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. "Must have used your phone while you were sleeping to access an account I didn't know existed. Or maybe you're talking about this." I pulled my phone from my purse and pressed play. Patricia's voice filled the room. "I forged it myself. 20 years working in real estate. Honey, I can copy anyone's signature perfectly." Liam was scared at first, but I told him it was fine. I let it play for another 30 seconds. Her confession about the gambling debts, about manipulating Liam, about planning the whole thing. When I stopped it, Patricia looked like she might be sick. "You recorded me. That's illegal. That can't be used." "California has an exception for recordings when gathering evidence of a felony," the shorter agent said with the slightest smile. "And mortgage fraud, forgery, and identity theft, those are all felonies, Mrs. Morrison." He pulled out handcuffs. "Patricia Morrison, Liam Morrison, you're both under arrest for bank fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud." Patricia started screaming, the kind of hysterical wailing that made everyone in the lobby turn and stare. "This is insane. She's setting us up. Liam, do something." But Liam just stood there, hands behind his back, letting the agent cuff him. He looked at me once, just once, and said quietly, "Sophia, you don't understand what you've done." I picked up my purse and walked toward the door. "No, Liam, you don't understand what you did. You took everything from me, my money, my home, my trust, and you thought I'd just roll over, let you destroy me." I stopped at the doorway. I built my life from nothing. I earned every dollar, and you both treated me like an ATM with a pulse. The agents were reading them their rights now, Patricia still screaming about lawyers and conspiracies. But I didn't stay to watch. I walked out through the lobby where people were staring, straight to the parking lot where my Porsche sat parked diagonally. I pulled out my keys, the ones I'd kept hidden, and clicked unlock. The car beeped, and as I slid into the driver's seat and felt the leather steering wheel under my palms, I finally let myself breathe. Really breathe. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't looking over my shoulder, because the nightmare was over, and I was finally free. The news spread fast. By that evening, my phone was blowing up. Texts from friends, calls from former colleagues, even a message from my sister who I hadn't spoken to in months. "Did you really have Liam arrested at a bank?" Everyone wanted the story. Everyone wanted details. But I wasn't ready to talk about it yet. I was still processing the fact that I'd done it, that I'd actually pulled it off, that the two people who'd made my life hell for 5 years were sitting in holding cells downtown, probably still trying to figure out how their perfect plan had collapsed so spectacularly. I went back to the house that night, my house, and it felt different, lighter somehow. Patricia's luggage was still in the guest room, her designer clothes spread across the bed like she'd been interrupted mid-packing. The kitchen still smelled like her perfume, but she wasn't there. For the first time in what felt like forever, I was alone. Actually alone. No one watching me. No one judging me. No one planning their next move to steal from me. I walked through each room, reclaiming my space, and when I got to the bedroom I shared with Liam, I stripped the sheets off the bed and threw them in the trash. I wasn't washing them. I was erasing them. The preliminary hearing happened 2 weeks later. I didn't have to testify yet. That would come at trial. But I showed up anyway. I wanted to see their faces. The courtroom was small, fluorescent lit, nothing like the dramatic scenes you see on TV. Patricia looked smaller somehow, her designer clothes replaced with an orange jumpsuit that washed out her complexion. Liam wouldn't look at me, not once. He kept his eyes on the floor while the prosecutor laid out the charges: bank fraud, identity theft, forgery, conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Each charge carried years of prison time, combined. They were looking at a decade, maybe more. Patricia's lawyer tried to argue that she was a victim too, that Liam had manipulated her, that she was just a mother trying to help her son. But then the prosecutor played the recording. My recording. Patricia's voice echoing through the courtroom, bragging about forging my signature, about how she'd planned everything, about how Liam just did what she told him. I watched the jury pool, the people sitting in the gallery who might eventually decide their fate, and I saw their faces change. Disgust. Anger. That's when I knew. They weren't getting out of this. The judge set bail at $500,000 each. Neither of them could make it. Patricia's lawyer argued that she had property, that she could put up her house as collateral. But the prosecutor pointed out that Patricia's house was already mortgaged to the hilt. Turned out those gambling debts weren't just $120,000. They were closer to $300,000. She'd been underwater for years, living off credit and stolen jewelry. My jewelry. The judge denied bail. Given the severity of the charges and the evidence of ongoing fraud, I consider both defendants a flight risk. The gavel came down. Patricia started crying. Not the hysterical screaming from the bank, but this quiet, broken sobbing that almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. As they led them out in handcuffs, Liam finally looked at me. His eyes were red, hollow, like he hadn't slept in days. He mouthed something. I think it was, "I'm sorry," but I just stared back. Because sorry doesn't give me back 5 years. Sorry doesn't undo the violation of having my identity stolen, my home threatened, my life held hostage. Sorry is just a word people say when they get caught. And I walked out of that courtroom with my head high, knowing that justice wasn't just coming. It was already here. I put the house on the market 3 weeks after the hearing. I know what you're thinking. Why sell it? It was mine, paid for with my money, my equity still intact. But every time I walked through that front door, I saw Patricia rifling through my closet. Every time I sat at the kitchen table, I heard Liam threatening me with the IRS. The house wasn't a home anymore. It was a crime scene, and I needed a fresh start more than I needed square footage. The Porsche went next. I listed it online with brutal honesty. 2024 Porsche Macan, excellent condition. one owner who actually respected it, and one borrower who smoked in it and drove it like a stolen vehicle. I got lowball offers at first, but eventually a buyer came through who didn't care about the cigarette smell, said he could detail it out. I sold it for $78,000. Less than I paid, sure, but I didn't care. That car had Patricia's energy all over it. The way she'd gripped the steering wheel like she owned it. The way she'd parked it across two spaces like the world owed her something. I wanted it gone. With the money from both sales, plus the restitution the court ordered from Liam's seized assets, which wasn't much, since most of his money had already been gambled away by his mother. I bought a loft downtown, 20th floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, and exactly 0 guest rooms. No space for parasites to move in, no extra keys to hand out. Just me, my coffee maker, and a view of the city that reminded me every morning that I'd survived. The first night I slept there, I didn't set an alarm. I didn't lock my bedroom door. I didn't worry about someone sneaking in to steal my things. I just slept. Really slept. For the first time in 5 years, I bought a new car too. Not another Porsche. I wanted something different. Something that represented who I was now, not who I'd been trying to be when I bought that Mackin. I got a Tesla Model S, sleek, fast, and most importantly, 2 seats. Just 2. No back row for mother-in-laws to commandeer. No room for anyone who hadn't earned the right to be there. When the salesman asked if I wanted to upgrade to the Model X for more space, I actually laughed. No, I said. 2 seats is perfect. The trial happened 6 months later. I had to testify this time, and I won't lie. It was brutal. Patricia's lawyer tried to paint me as vindictive, as someone who'd set them up, who'd recorded private conversations and manipulated evidence. But the prosecutor was brilliant. She walked the jury through every transaction, every forged signature, every IP log. She played Patricia's confession. She showed photos of my grandmother's Cartier bracelet, the one I'd reported stolen, being worn by Patricia in a Facebook post from 8 months ago. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Liam got 8 years. Patricia got 12 because of the prior real estate fraud convictions the investigation had uncovered. Turns out she'd been forging signatures long before she met me. I wasn't surprised. When the judge read the sentences, Patricia collapsed in her chair. Liam just nodded, like he'd been expecting it. And me? I sat in the gallery with my hands folded in my lap, feeling nothing. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just closure. The kind of closure that comes when you finally cut out an infection that's been poisoning you for years. I left the courthouse that day and drove straight to the coast. Parked my Tesla at a scenic overlook, put the windows down, and just sat there watching the waves crash against the rocks. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and orange, and I thought about how different my life looked now compared to a year ago. No husband, no mother-in-law, no stolen jewelry or forged documents or threats hanging over my head. Just me. Just freedom. And as I started the car and pulled back onto the highway, I realized something that made me smile for the first time in months. They thought they could trap me. They thought they could use my own fear and my own name against me. But they forgot one crucial thing. I didn't build my life by being weak. I built it by being smart. And smart always wins in the end. 2 years later, I'm sitting in my loft on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise paint the city skyline in shades of pink and gold. My consulting business is thriving. Turns out, surviving financial fraud and identity theft makes you pretty good at advising other companies on risk management. Who knew? The Tesla is parked downstairs in my private spot. No one else's hands on the steering wheel but mine. And the best part? My phone hasn't rung with a manipulative mother-in-law or a lying husband in 730 days. I counted. Liam sends letters sometimes. They come to my lawyer's office. I never gave him my new address. The first few were angry, blaming me for ruining his life, claiming I overreacted. Then they turned apologetic, begging for forgiveness, saying his mother manipulated him. The most recent one, he's in a minimum security facility now, taking accounting classes, talking about how he's found himself. I haven't responded to a single one, because here's what I learned. Some people don't deserve your forgiveness. Some people deserve exactly what they got. And closure doesn't require you to absolve the people who tried to destroy you. It just requires you to move on without them. Patricia, from what I hear through the legal grapevine, isn't doing well. Turns out prison doesn't have country clubs or poker nights or designer handbags. She'll be eligible for parole in 8 years. 8 years of orange jumpsuits and shared cells and no one to manipulate. Sometimes I think about her sitting there, realizing that her greed cost her everything. Her freedom, her son, her future. And then I take another sip of coffee and get back to living my life. Because that's the thing about karma. You don't have to chase it. You just have to step out of the way and let it work. They thought they could take everything from me, my money, my home, my dignity, my future. They thought that threatening me with prison, with the IRS, with public humiliation would make me crumble. But they forgot something crucial. I didn't build my empire by being weak. I built it by being relentless. And when you back someone like that into a corner, when you try to cage someone who spent their whole life breaking through barriers, well, you don't get a victim. You get a reckoning. So I got my Porsche back. Well, sold it and got something better. I put my mother-in-law and husband exactly where they belonged. But you know what's crazy? My story isn't even the wildest one I've heard. Because the next story I'm about to tell you, it's about a woman who lived with a man she thought was mute for 5 years. She paid for everything, his food, his rent, his life, while his best friend translated his sign language. She learned ASL for him. She built her entire world around accommodating his disability. Until one night at a party, she walked down a dark hallway and heard her mute husband threatening someone in perfect, fluent English. He wasn't disabled, he was an actor, and what she did to expose him in front of 500 people. Let's just say it makes my bank trap look gentle. You're not going to want to miss this one.